Let's speak with Carum Basra, Deputy Director for Engagement at Unchecked UK. Carum, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
There you go. You heard the case from the family. All-round good bloke, massively focused, hugely successful, nothing strange about him, not in it for himself, only to make America, well, great again.
Yeah, look, I'm sure if you asked my dad on, he'd say I was the man for this job.
Yeah, we did ask him, by the way, but he was otherwise engaged.
But look, listen, so the idea that Musk has got nothing in it for himself, let's use a bit of common sense. I think, he wouldn't have plunged millions of dollars into this campaign unless he thought he could get something out the other end of it, right? And this idea of a Department of Government Efficiency has come straight from Elon Musk and sort of been implanted in Trump's brain. Musk reckons he can save about $2 trillion a year. The federal budget is about $8 trillion, right? So that's a quarter of federal spending.
Yeah, it's big. What
does that actually mean, right? And I think it means vital protections, it means environmental protections, it means regulations. I think these are all things that keep us and our families safe. And I think that's what American families will be worried about today.
Wouldn't Trump's position, if he was stepping in at this point, he'd go, hang on, Carum, just a minute. You think I'm not going to keep America safe? That's within my DNA. It's part of my core message that you'll be safe with me. I'm just not going to buy into all the kind of gibberish and bureaucracy, this huge machine of government that's been there forever, the status quo that we've just got used to. Of course, we employ 10 gazillion people in that department because we always have. But actually, do we need to continue like that? We need to save it. And Elon Musk, as a focused businessman, probably also feels quite strongly about that. If I ran my business like they run like the government is run, I'd be bankrupt. So it's not an entirely odd fit in that respect.
Well, let's talk about the businesses that Musk actually runs, right? SpaceX, Tesla, X itself. I mean, they've been subject to multiple violations. So that's when it comes to kind of workplace safety, environmental standards, and a whole kind of host of violations, right? So to say that the man is not interested or comes at this from a kind of disinterested position is just not true, right? I mean, what he sees is regulators coming after him. At the moment, those regulators are independent, robust, genuinely staffed by people who are kind of disinterested. And he sort of thinks that those things should go away, right? He doesn't want that to interfere with his ability to make money.
That could be true. Is it possible to wear both hats, though? To go, yeah, OK, if I'm brutally honest, some of this is in my interest, but I do genuinely believe, as a businessman, that governments could be more efficient. And it's a constant form of frustration, not just from me, but from other business people, that it takes so many people to do jobs that in the private sector you would never for 1 second consider. Could it also be that?
But I think, we've got to be honest with ourselves. Does the private sector play a role in making policy? It certainly does, right? Endless consultations, kind of business roundtables, here the Institute of Directors or the CBI or whoever, right? So there is definitely a way in to kind of make those rules. The idea that kind of businesses are far more efficient than the public sector, I mean, I just don't think the evidence is there for that.
Well, you say that it's not there, but it's not unusual to hear a business voice, even over here, make that point, that, there's an awful lot of people doing jobs that we would never even consider that amount. I mean, I appreciate some would argue you can never have too many people on a job, but it's not an entirely new complaint, shall we say, from not just private business, but from objective onlookers, that there's an awful lot of people working in places where you might not need an awful lot of people.
All right. So, I mean, I think it's worth kind of grounding this in the real world, right? So if we look at kind of watchdogs and those folks that are supposed to look after us, headcount has fallen by about a third in the last decade. So that's everyone from kind of Ofgem to Ofwat and whoever else. And if we take one example, the water industry, you've seen tons of sewage being pumped into our rivers, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what happens when you take those people away, right? They're not just kind of numbers or whatever. These people kind of sampling sewage or making sure that the hamburgers that you eat are safe.
You need some of them, but do you need like 30,000 of them? I think that's the argument, isn't it? It's not whether they should exist at all. It's just in what kind of numbers.
Right, but we had this pressure, right? It's not as though this has come from nowhere and suddenly, if we look at the UK, we had, you'll remember under Cameron, we had this whole idea of for every rule that you bring in, you need to get rid of 2 of them. That ramped up to 3 of them over time, and that led to lots of kind of different issues and lots of weaknesses. So I think this idea that there's just tons of waste in government is just, it's for the birds, frankly.
There it is. On that point, Carum, great to have you on with us as well. Carum Basra, Deputy Director of Engagement of Unchecked UK. There are not too many people working in the public sector, and he would apply that also to the United States. And Musk is in it for himself, basically. Of course, Elon Musk, old man,